So if you are an athlete who's been underperforming for weeks or months or even years, you're probably thinking to yourself something like, "Oh my God, I have reached my peak. Nothing I do works. I'm just done." You maybe try training harder, you try to tough it out. Maybe you even change coaches, equipment, or anything else really, but nothing really seems to be working. And in reality, there is usually not just a single thing that is affecting your performance. There tends to be a core problem behind it, yes, but performance actually is a multi-layer system. And that is what we are going to talk about today. So first, we have to understand that there are 5 layers to underperformance. And all of these layers are connected and affect each other. That means that if one layer is doing bad, the other layers are going to start doing bad as well. So let's talk about the layers. We have the biological layer, we have the psychological layer, we have the training related layer, we have the tactical layer, and then we have the social layer. All 5 of these things are going to impact your performance in one way or another. Let's say you start sleeping less or you start training too much. That is your biology. You get fatigue, your hormones start messing up, and you are a lot more prone to illness. Now, because your body is tired, your psychology changes as well. You're now more anxious, you're now more self-conscious, you're more irritable, and you're more pessimistic about what may or may not happen. In that state, you stop training well. That is the training layer we talked about. There is a lot of mindless drilling, you just play mindlessly. You don't really think about what you are doing. There is not that much match-like practicing either. And unless you have a coach to correct you, when you practice wrong, you're going to learn it the wrong way. Then when the actual match comes, your tactic falls apart as well. You make predictable shots, you do not really analyze anything, you start panicking under pressure. Your whole tactic falls apart because in reality, you don't really have that great of a tactic. Your brain isn't capable of analyzing it that well. And then the social layer comes into play. Because you are playing horribly, other people might get mad at you. People who trusted you start losing faith in you. Your coaches don't know what to do with you. And all of these different problems arise. And especially when it's a prolonged period, things suddenly start falling apart. And just like we said, it is all connected. So all of these bad things, they start stacking up and they make everything even worse. So the real question is, what can we do about it? First, we have to separate 2 very different problems. We need to separate episodic choking with chronic underperformance. Chronic underperformance is when you perform bad for a prolonged period of time pretty much everywhere. It doesn't matter if you're playing against a friend, if you're just practicing, you are underperforming everywhere for a prolonged amount of time. Episodic choking is when you start underperforming in crucial moments. So when you are in a high pressure scenario, that is when you suddenly start underperforming. That is choking. And that is a different problem to chronic underperformance. I do have a video about it, though. It's going to be at the end screen and in the description. Okay, so now that we are actually sure that the problem is chronic underperformance, it's time we start playing detective, because there is no one definitive answer to what your problem could be. And the best thing I can probably do for you right now is show you the differences between the most common problems. And then we'll take a very quick questionnaire at the end so that you can better understand your situation and pinpoint the problem easier. All right, so let's quickly get through these. We have overtraining, we have athlete burnout, and we have depression. Overtraining is when your body is physically exhausted. That means in your mind you still want to play, you still like kind of want to get better, but you're underperforming and you just feel physically weak. That is usually fixed if you just take a couple of days or a couple of weeks rest. Then we have burnout. Burnout is when you have a problem with the sport emotionally. You stop caring about the results, you become apathetic toward the sport. But when you're in your normal life, when you're doing something else, you feel fine. Everything is great. But it's really just your relationship with the sport is getting really bad. The key differences here is that rest alone does not fix the problem. With overtraining, you could rest for a week or 2 weeks and you would be fine. But with burnout, that does not always apply. And then we have depression. In a way, depression is similar to burnout in the sense that you become apathetic and you really stop caring about things. You kind of become numbed out. But the key difference here is that depression takes over your entire life and not just the sport. With burnout, if you were doing something else, you would be fine. With depression, that is not the case. You are not fine pretty much anywhere. It doesn't matter what you're doing. And now we have the last three. We have motivation deficit, executive dysfunction, and perfectionism paralysis. Motivation deficit is when you could train well, but you don't really want to. You do stuff like you skip practice, you avoid doing the hard things. You just can't find the reason to play. And the really deep question with motivation deficit is asking yourself, why am I doing this? Like, why am I playing this? If you can't find a reason as to why you are playing, then it is really, really difficult. I'd even say impossible to get better consistently. Then we have executive dysfunction, which is a very core feature of ADHD and is very typically associated with ADHD, but it doesn't have to be just ADHD. This is where you really want to train, but you have a problem organizing yourself and actually doing it. People with ADHD typically need some kind of external motivation, something externally to push them toward the goal, because if they rely on internal motivation, they are going to have days where they are doing extremely well. They are super productive. But it is extremely hard for them to stay consistent. They really want to, but they have a problem sticking to schedule. And to really make things work, they need some kind of structure and they need some kinds of cues. Next up, we have the perfectionism paralysis. This one can be a real pain because you are extremely motivated. Like, you are way too motivated, which is kind of the problem. You overanalyze absolutely everything, and you are scared to actually make mistakes. You might even avoid stuff because failure could hurt so much. And the solution here is really not raising your standards like most people do, because your standards are already high enough. They are already at the top of a mountain that you're trying to climb with no equipment. What you can do with this is you can try to learn how to fail on purpose in kind of small doses and actually learn from it, so that your nervous system learns that failing is actually okay and that you are still safe. Okay, so those were some of the most common problems that people tend to have when underperformance occurs. And now it's time for the questionnaire. Very quick, very simple. We are going to go through each layer. I want to note that this questionnaire is purely for self-awareness. This is not a diagnosis. This is so you can better understand what your situation is, because most of us are completely blind as to what is happening to our life. And we do not realize it until someone else points it out. All right, so let's start with the first layer, the biology, the body. So first ask yourself, how many hours do you sleep? And is it consistent? Then, do you wake up tired, like, all the time? Or how often do you wake up tired? Are you consistently injured? Are you constantly feeling sore and just feeling weak? And last, did your workload jump up in the past couple of months? Now let's move on to the psychology, the mind. Ask yourself, are you losing interest in the sport, or are you losing interest in everything? What is your self-talk after a bad performance? Like, are you mad at yourself? Are you telling yourself, am I stupid? Or are you just telling yourself, well, better luck next time? Or are you just completely numb to it, like, well, another loss, whatever. Next question is, do you feel anxious before your training sessions? Or maybe do you feel anxious just if your coach is watching? Another thing, do you ruminate for hours? That means, do you spend hours thinking about the sport every day? Now the training related layer. First question is, do your practices look anything like your matches? Next up, are your practices endless and easy predictable drills, or do you have randomized drills as well? Those are important. And last question in this category, do you ever practice under pressure, or do you just chill and practice normally? Because practicing under pressure is actually a really helpful thing to help you deal with pressure in your matches. Now for the tactics layer. This layer is a little tricky because tactic is something that consistently changes. So the best I can ask you is, are you predictable? And if your tactic is not working, do you at least change it and try something new? Are you easy to predict? And now for the last layer, which is the social layer. This layer is more so about your own life. You have to look at your whole life as a whole and really think, is my life okay right now? Am I feeling good? Or is there something that's stressing me out? Do I have teammates that are stressing me out? Am I in a difficult financial situation? Do I have a lot of homework? Do I have a lot of schoolwork? Is there something that is on your mind that is making it hard for you to be chill? So once you have filled this out, all you need to do is just look at your answers, and you should pretty quickly be able to see where the core of your performance issue lies. Hey, I hope you found this video helpful. Just like I promised, here is the video about choking and what you can do about it. If you also maybe want to know why your practices aren't that efficient, feel free to check out this video as well. Thank you for watching, don't die, and bye-bye.